What's up, grasshoppers? Chun is back, your friendly neighborhood turtle hermit, and Happy New Year to you guys. Got a battle today against Edge from the xEDGEx chat. This was a great match, 4th gen overused. I wanted to get this recorded on emulator with the new quality, but unfortunately my save file is having issues with Desmu, so I'm trying to just figure that out. So this one's gonna be on webcam, unfortunately, but this match was too good to pass up to not get it recorded. So hopefully you guys didn't miss me too much. But anyway, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it here. Now he's gonna lead off with a Swampert, and I'm actually gonna lead off with Dragonite. You guys have seen this team a few times before, but being in this scenario, I know I'm at an immediate disadvantage. I'm carrying Lumberry, but even if I had Life Orb, Draco Meteor doesn't one-shot the standard tank set, so decided to make the most of it by getting a better feel for his skill level from the very first turn by going to my own Swampert. If he Ice Beams, that's great since he loses a little momentum, and he's forced to set up rocks at the same time I do on turn 2, and I would try to get the faster roar out on turn 3 due to my nature, but or so I think, as you'll see later on. But he sets up rocks, so that tells me he's either banking on me switching out, or he just generally knows about Dragonite leads. But this goes out the window later on as well, so I go for my own rocks, honestly expecting roar, but he makes a very aggressive play, goes right to his Breloom, and in hindsight this actually turns out to be a move that backfires on him, which you'll see as the battle progresses, because I immediately start planning out the next few turns as soon as I saw Breloom come out, due to seeing this matchup enough times as well. So I started to draw up different scenarios since I realized I had several answers to Breloom on this team, and as long as I end this switch sequence correctly, I can beat it, with Scizor breaking the U-turn with Sub. Now I decided to initially go to Dragonite to burn the Lumberry and just plan it from there. He goes for Spore as I expected. I'm trying to decide who's going to be sleep fodder at this point, and initially here I'm thinking he's the standard Sub Puncher, and my Dragonite is slower than Sub Punch Breloom, and going to Dragonite actually turned out to be an epic play on my part, because at first I was going, okay, now what? Because I thought about going back to Pert thinking he could Spore again, but I didn't want to risk him predicting that. I just decided to leave Dragonite in, and I realized that I could bait I could bluff that I'm faster by staying in and just going for Fire Blast, because why else would I switch a D-Knight in that's carrying Lumberry, right? So I go for it. Sure enough, he switches out to reveal Starmie to take the hit. Thankfully I didn't miss. Now I really had to think here, as I have to tread carefully against Starmie with this team. I only have one solid switch to it, and I'd be forced to set up early with it, as nothing else appreciates damage from Starmie. So I'm assuming he's Life Orb, since I didn't see Lefty's recovery. I know Extreme Speed will do around 40% to it, so I can either sack D-Knight here to Extreme Speed it and bring Kingdra in. I can go to Kingdra directly, or I can go to Scizor and attempt to switch around to Life Orb style it down to 40% and end my switch pattern with Dragonite to threaten the Extreme Speed at that point. I decided to ultimately go with the second and simplest option, since I may need Dragonite for Breloom as well as other unseen threats later on, and if he catches on to a switching pattern with Scizor, I could lose one of my guys needlessly. So why make things complicated, right? So that is ultimately what I decided to do after much thinking on my part. I'm gonna go to Kingdra, take the Ice Beam, and attempt some type of setup from there, since I'm running the Chest No Rest set on this team. But that's what I do, and he is gonna go for Ice Beam, but
sucks. That sucks. I got frozen.
So yeah, anyway, I didn't take that ice beam as well as I thought I would, and naturally my mind is running around now like the house is on fire, much like many players do once a team member gets frozen. But after a few seconds though, I realized this is an opportunity to use Kingdra's resistances to scout the Starmie set and try to burn some life orb recoil, and I even start thinking that Kingdra could potentially thaw out if I bring it in on a fire move. And also if he KOs it, I can bring D-Knight in to threaten the extreme speed, which is the initial plan, and then he shows recover. So that's out the window, at least for the time being. Now he might have thought about the possibility of Dragonite having extreme speed, which is fairly common now. Regardless, it was an excellent play on his part. Now I need to be very careful of my next move here, as I ran some calcs to see how much perk could take from a Hydro Pump. It's an easy 2-hit KO. So I decided to still stick with the plan of scouting the set, since Swampert is my only phaser and I may need it for later. Kinda want Kingdra to thaw out, but I'm not really looking for it at this point. And him sporting Recover as well as Ice Beam tells me there's a good chance he doesn't have Rapid Spin, so the rocks are staying on the field. So I am going to decide to stay in, and he's actually going to go for Thunderbolt. And so I kind of regret the decision of not going to Swampert, but in hindsight, with Kingdra being at over 50%, Pert was still a pretty safe bet, as he's somewhat pressured to get damage on Kingdra first to really open Starmie up. Despite me being frozen, I just thought it was too risky at the time though. Now thinking he'll Thunderbolt again, I decide to save Kingdra for Death Fodder and go to Swampert now. But he switches back to Ice Beam, probably figuring I would try to go to Pert, or I would stay in with Kingdra to get momentum back on the free switch, which I seriously considered. Unfortunately, I made the play a turn too late on my part. Now looking at the damage calc, lefties put me just out of range for a Life Orb Hydro Pump to one-shot Pert. So at this point I'm feeling pretty good about staying in and just going for Earthquake. So I decided to forego saving Pert for later on. I just have to make sure I can keep the pressure up and prevent him from setting anything up on me, or it's a good game. He shows that his Water Stabs actually Surf, so that's even better, and Starmie takes slightly over half from Earthquake, from my perspective anyway. So here, he does try to recover off the damage. I don't know if he looked at the damage and thought he could potentially recover stall, but I knew at this point what position I was in, and that he is going to have to KO me, since I plan to just spam Earthquake until I either get a crit or go down, so I can bring something else in on the free switch in, since Starmie will be very low at that point. And if he tries to recover stall, it's just more lefties recovery for Swampert, especially since he's carrying Surf, so he'd have to do damage at some point. My next Earthquake does take him out surprisingly. He brings Breloom back out on the free switch, and I can't go to Dragonite this time, so I decided to just fodder Swampert out at this point. Now I considered Roar to maybe catch him making a sub, predicting me to switch, but I figure he'll just Seed Bomb, so I go for Ice Punch. He is going to Spore though, and I really could not ask for more than that. A Swampert is the best sleep fodder in this situation, at least in my opinion, because all three of my other answers will stay awake, and I can easily deal with Breloom at that point. Now, I'm going to start the usual combination that I use of dealing with this mushroom. I'm going to go to Scizor on the sub, since he can't put anything else to sleep now, so Breloom's going to be a lot easier to deal with. I'm going to U-turn to break it, and if he shows Focus Punch, I'm going to go to Gengar to dodge it. If he shows Seed Bomb, I'm still going to go to Gengar, since I know Gengar will be faster. And Gengar walls Breloom for the most part, unless he's packing Stone Edge. So naturally he subs, and I go for U-turn to break the sub, since I know I'm slower. And he actually shows Leech Seed, and I lit up inside, since Sub Gengar walls Sub-Seed Breloom, as its only attack is Focus Punch. And I'm going to go to Gengar immediately, so I can go ahead and get my free sub. Now it's funny because in hindsight, I guess him sporing to catch Swampert in the early part of the match could have potentially tipped me off that he was Sub-Seed, as well as the fact that he switched out on Dragonite, since the standard Sub-Seed Breloom is actually outsped by this particular lead Dragonite, because I am Quiet Nature, but I am running some a little bit of speed just to outrun some certain leads. But anyway, gonna keep it going by going into Gengar here, as I stated earlier. Definitely going to go for the sub here. It's just too good of an opportunity to pass up for me. And since again I know he's sub-seed now, so he's going to get completely walled. Now I figured once I get this sub up, I'm going to be ready to wreck shop with Gengar. But as you guys will see here, he's actually going to go back to his Swampert, which I had completely forgotten about from the beginning of the match, and I realized that I am not going to wreck shop, and he's just going to roar me out. So the best I can do is just Shadow Ball to get as much damage as I can, since I am running a sub +3 attacks set, and I'm going to get a nice chunk off of his Swampert as he roars me out, which is always a good thing against a Swampert. And he's actually going to roar me into my own Swampert, which is the second worst thing to come in, the worst being Kingdra. And he's got the advantage now, because now he can, if he wants to, pretty much roar and just rack up Stealth Rock damage as I try to flail around and switch to get blown into something that I have to force this Swampert out. Now I am expecting Ice Beam, since he's already seen 2 ground immunities on my team. Obviously can't go to Dragonite, so my best bet is Gengar again, since it takes about 40% from Ice Beam and I can threaten the KO with Shadow Ball. But he actually shows that he runs Surf, which may have been another reason why he set up Rocks first turn as opposed to going straight for the KO. Now I'm positive his last move is Earthquake and not Ice Beam, so that means Dragonite can come in for free if he doesn't roar. Although Surf did not KO Gengar, it really surprised me there. And unfortunately for me, I got a bit too excited at the fact that Dragonite could stay in on perk almost all day, and I make a bad play by going directly to it. I did it based on the fact that I wanted to switch up my moves, since there were certain turns earlier where I stayed in with other team members, but naturally he's just going to make the safe solid play and roars me out, so I get 25% damage on Dragonite for nothing. Now I know the next time I bring Dragonite in, it will be staying in, and I was fearing the worst since a third of my team is essentially dead. But I get Dragonist Scizor. I know what to do here. I'm gonna go for that nice stab choice banded U-turn, figuring he'll stay in and just roar again. Shockingly, he goes for Surf and he outruns my Scizor. I didn't check, but I'm thinking he's running Speed EVs, because this U-turn actually one-hit KOs his perk, which I don't think would have happened if he was the standard tank set. And this throws out the theory on the first turn I had that my perk would outspeed, since obviously showing here it would not have. I do some quick math, realize that Gengar is going to survive the rock, so I go to it just to see if he has another answer to it. He reveals that he does have a Scizor of his own here, figuring Bullet Punch is coming, but in case he predicts me to switch out, I just go for the solid damage with Thunderbolt. If he does go for Bullet Punch, my main sweeper gets free setup, so it's not really a good scenario for him at the moment anyway. He does go for Bullet Punch as predicted to take Gengar down. Don't see any Life Orb recoil or Lefty's recovery, so that tells me it is most likely choice. I do reveal Metagross here, and I'm just going to go ahead and start the setup. This is exactly what I'm going to do. A perfect opportunity for Metagross here. But he's actually going to go into a Dragonite of his own, since obviously he cannot stay in. Well, if he does, it tells me he's definitely choiced. If he does not stay in, I should say. Now, this is going to make things pretty interesting, and this turn is going to turn out to be one of the most intricate turns in the match, because we're getting past the mid-game at this point, so I figured this is his main sweeper as well, so it's safe to say it's a Dragon Dance variant. There's a lot of unseen scenarios here. He does show lefties coming in, so I can assume it's the bulky Dragon Dance set with Roost and either Earthquake or Fire Punch. I don't want to make any assumptions yet though, because I've seen offensive sets run lefties just to throw people off. I run some calcs. Zen Headbutt has a chance to 2-hit KO. Meteor Mash will definitely 2-hit KO. And if he's got Earthquake, it's not going to one-shot me back. So, also have to take into account Meteor Mash's accuracy though. I could potentially miss. I also think about him possibly switching out, fearing the Ice Punch, which I do not carry. I carry Zen Headbutt. So in the end, that's what I'm gonna go for first, for the higher accuracy chance, so I have the best chance possible of hitting the Dragonite. And maybe I'll get a flinch out of it, maybe not. That's another possible scenario. So I know if I hit this Zen Headbutt though, a follow-up Meteor Mash will one-hit KO if he decides to stay in. The worst case scenario here is that I miss and I can go for Zen Headbutt again and try to get the flinch there. So he does stay in, and he's actually going to show that he's carrying Fire Punch, which is even better. Now I know he's the bulky Dragon Dance set. His stab is probably Dragon Claw, is my guess. But I'm going to go for the KO with Meteor Mash, and hopefully I won't miss, because he's probably going to go for the Roost on this turn to potentially stall me out. Although that's going to be pretty tough considering I'm running Lumberry and not leftover Life Orb, so he's not going to be able to burn me out of Life Orb recoil. But he's definitely doing some thinking here. He might not have liked the damage Fire Punch was doing, so switching out was he was definitely considering that. But thankfully I do not miss, and not only that, I am awarded with an attack raise. So now I get to see what he'll bring in with his main sweeper gone. So I figure that he's either going to reveal his last to me now or go to Scizor. Breloom's just going to get one-shotted unless I miss Zen Headbutt. And if he goes to Scizor, that tells me his last Pokemon can't handle a +1/+2 Metagross. And he ultimately decides on Scizor. Now I immediately thought he would superpower for the KO, since I figured he's choice banded, as if he locks into anything else it's probably good game for him. Really not sure though. I decided to go for Earthquake to do as much damage as I can before going down, and I really wasn't sure if it was gonna one-hit KO at this point, since even though I am +1 attack, Scizor's close to full health, and choice banded Scizor typically has HP investment in its EVs, so add to the fact that Earthquake is not stab, so I didn't really count the damage on this one. I just kind of went for it. Also did have to hope the mistake of bringing Dragonite in earlier on Swampert didn't cost me the game, because if his Scizor is faster than my Dragonite, Superpower would have to do less than 25% for me to live, since I had planned on spamming Fire Blast since if Metagross went down. Since I got rid of 3 fire resist on his team, you can't possibly have a 4th, right? But it's going to come down to this turn. He actually bullet punches, and not really sure why. I thought his last could have priority as well to finish Metagross off to try to salvage the situation. But Earthquake does not one-hit KO even at +1, so it's probably banded. The next Earthquake will finish it off, and I will live the second bullet punch, however. Now on this turn he is going to bring in Breloom, so now I know his last can't handle +2 Metagross. And pretty unfortunate, because I'm going to go right for the Zen Headbutt. He's not going to be able to put me to sleep, and Breloom will easily get one-shotted. His last is actually a Heatran, so I know that it is pretty much good game, unless he's got a Shuka Berry, and even then I don't know. But this match is also another reason why I run Lumberry over Life Orb, since because I didn't have to take recoil damage, I was able to stick around and complete the sweep with Metagross. And even Scarftran's not going to outspeed me at this point, and that's going to be the game. But Edge, it was an excellent game. The score does not do it justice at all, because it was a 5-0, but with a lot of my guys crippled, it was essentially a 3-0. But Edge, if you're looking at this, man, if you've got a YouTube channel, definitely let me know. I will put the link to your channel in the description. Guys, want to give a quick shout out to the user Alkahest, who I missed on my last shout out video. You guys want to know where I'm getting a lot of my music from, you need to check him out. Although I do some of the music I do on my own, but a lot of it I've been getting from him lately. But anyway, guys, until next episode, I'm out. Peace.